It was early January in the small town of Enoch, Utah. Snow lay across quiet streets, and in one particular neighborhood, a single house sat on a corner lot with cars parked neatly in the driveway. The sun was low on the horizon when a family friend, concerned about a missed appointment, reached out to local authorities. That simple request for a welfare check soon led to a chilling discovery, one that would shake the entire state of Utah to its core.
Dispatch was Whitney. Okay, and you said she was supposed to go back home last night, was it?
Yeah, she was away with her parents for like a week, I think, with the kids, and was going to go home last night as they had some divorce paperwork. But I know that she was a little bit concerned for her safety that way, and I just want to make sure she's okay. I can't get her by phone or email, and it's not like her to miss an appointment. It's only been an hour. It's not even, yeah, it's just been an hour. But
okay, did her and her ex still live together?
Yes. Yeah, that was what the situation was. He was refusing to leave the home, and that's what the paperwork was. She was going to file paperwork to get him out.
Okay, she said that to you specifically that she was concerned for her welfare about going home?
Yeah, she had some concerns about that, and I had some concerns just from talking to her, too. I was encouraging her not to do that, but I'm not sure what she decided, but I know her plan was to go home.
Okay, why is she concerned?
He has had some violent tendencies in the past, and I believe CPS has been involved, and I actually believe she came and spoke to your police department a couple weeks ago to let her know divorce was upcoming, just because she didn't really trust him.
Right. He's been violent with her in the past, correct?
I think the violence has been more with the kids, but he has been with her, but I don't think it's been reported. He's been physical with her before.
Okay, and are the children home as well with them, or do they live somewhere else?
I don't know if they were together. They were all together, but I don't know if they started back to school today. And I don't know how to check up and see if they're at school or anything.
Okay, how many kids?
I believe she has 5.
Do you know the ages?
Not offhand. I think the oldest is 17, and I think they have twins that are 12, and the youngest, and then they may have like 8 and 6. That's roughly.
Okay. And what was your
I don't want to make a big Tasha Holt, H-A-I-G-H-T.
And how do you spell her first name?
Tasha, T-A-U-S-H-A.
And you said the last name H-A-I-G-H-T?
Yeah, it's probably actually pronounced Height.
Okay, just want to make sure I had that right. And then, do you have her date of birth by chance?
Possibly. I don't have it really handy, but I might be able to track that down.
Okay. And you said she missed an appointment today. Was that like an appointment for you guys to meet up together, or?
Yeah, I'm actually out of state. Otherwise, I would probably check on her myself, but we had a time we were going to meet. We're going to do a video chat.
Okay. And what was her ex-husband's name?
They're still married. They just filed divorce papers. Michael.
And you said you don't know if the kids are there at home right now with them?
I do not know. No, I've not been able to get a hold of her. Let me just double-check my email again to make sure in the meantime I haven't heard back from her or anything.
Okay. And then, can I get, and just...
I need to tell you a little bit.
Their address by chance?
I do, yes. It's 4696 Santa Fe Trail. She's in her early 40s. I don't have her exact birth date right here, but I can probably track that down. And it's in Cedar City. Okay.
All right, I will get this put in here. Do you know, by chance, in the past, like, can you explain to me, like, how he was violent? Was it just...
I know they had a well check with CPS down there. It was with one of the kids. He just has anger issues.
Okay. Do you know if drugs or alcohol are a factor?
No drugs or alcohol, no.
Okay. And do you know if there are any weapons involved?
I've been talking about that. There are firearms in the house. I think they're locked up. I was actually encouraging her to get those out and turn them into you because I knew in Utah you could do that. I used to practice. I know they had guns, but she thought they were safe locked up because I was trying to ask if he would have access to those. But I don't know what happened that way. I'm actually thinking he might still have access to those. But they are at least locked up in their house. But I think he has access to open the lock. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be confusing about that.
Okay. And then
they're safe from the kids getting to them.
Okay, like in a safe or something?
I think so. I believe it's something like that.
Okay.
Yes, she has, I think, some firearms of her own, and he does also.
Okay. I'll get this put in here, and I will see if we can have someone go out there and check on her, okay?
Yeah, if I hear anything or hear back from her, I won't hear anything back from you, I assume, or will I?
I can have an automated contact if you'd like.
That'd be great. Now, is this okay for me to do? Do people do those kind of things? I haven't actually had to do this previously.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, definitely. So it's not uncommon.
Okay, and it's okay to keep my name confidential. I really don't want to get in a legal confidential thing. I think she would certainly appreciate me checking up, but I don't know that he would. So.
Okay, yeah, I'll put that in there so they're aware.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. I appreciate the work you do. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Local officers visited the home around 11 a.m., knocked a few times, and left when no one answered. Hours went by, and one of Michael's colleagues requested a welfare check too.
Public Safety Dispatch, this is Sydney.
Michael's wife served him with divorce papers within the last 2 weeks, and he's kind of been struggling with it and whatnot. But this morning, when they went to the offices, they found there was a check on his secretary's desk to her that she wasn't expecting, and there was confidential documents left out on Michael's desk, which is out of the ordinary for him. He's had a full day of appointments, but hasn't showed up for any appointments, which that's out of character. He would always either show up or make alternate arrangements, and nobody's been able to contact him.
Okay.
So is that 1870 suite number?
Okay.
And Michael's office is in that same building. I don't think it's the same suite, but it is in that same building.
Okay.
And Mike.
Okay.
And I don't know Michael Haight's address, but I know he lives up on the ridge someplace up there.
Okay, we'll see if we have any news files for him. Did he have a date of birth on him?
I don't have that.
Okay.
He would be in his 40s and maybe in his 50s.
Okay. The one that's matching that one has an address in Enoch.
Actually, that may be it. That might
Okay.
be it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be it.
Yeah, I can get Cedar assigned to this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
The situation worsened when the friend who was worried about Tasha insisted something was wrong and demanded a thorough check. That's when they discovered the tragedy. Neighbors pushed open a door at the tidy gray stucco home, only to stumble upon a scene they will likely never forget. Michael Haight, his wife Tasha, their 5 children, and Tasha's mother, Gail Earl, were dead. To those who knew them, the Haidts seemed like a typical family, active in their community, attending church on Sundays and sending their children to school each morning. But behind closed doors, rumors had swirled for years about Michael's temper and the strain in his marriage. A few of the older children had confided in friends that home life was far from peaceful. In 2020, the local police department conducted a brief investigation into him, following a concerning allegation of physical aggression made by his eldest daughter, sharing details that were deeply unsettling.
City Manager Rob Dotson says investigators interviewed Macy, her dad, and her mom separately, but after reviewing with the county attorney's office, they dropped the case.
The situation left the teen feeling endangered and fearful for her safety. Tasha, however, conveyed to the investigating officer that she hoped this troubling incident might serve as a turning point for the family. Ultimately, no charges were filed. The 2 oldest daughters, one just entering her teen years and the other in high school, wanted their father to move out and often sought refuge at a neighbor's house or with close family friends. Finally, in December 2022, Tasha filed for divorce, a decision that, by most accounts, had been building for a long time. In the weeks after, Michael's world seemed to be unraveling. He was served the papers at work, an embarrassing moment in front of his colleagues. Around the same time, tensions with his employer came to a head, and word spread that he was leaving his job under troubling circumstances. Those who crossed paths with him in those final days noticed a shift. He was on edge, his usual composure cracking. But something far more dangerous was taking shape, an undercurrent of anger, denial, and control. Not long after that, Tasha's mother, Gail, came to stay with them, hoping to offer support. She slept in a first-floor room, close to her daughter and youngest grandchild. Some of the older kids said they felt better with their grandmother around, as though it provided a protective layer between them and their father's outbursts. In the final weeks, Michael insisted on removing every firearm from the home, leaving Tasha and her mother defenseless if tensions escalated. She confided in friends and her attorney that she had no idea where he had taken them. She didn't necessarily believe he would hurt them. She just no longer trusted his judgment.
Tasha said she hoped it would be a wake-up call for her husband, but that she didn't think criminal charges were appropriate.
By January 3rd, 2023, Tasha was caught between fear and relief. She was taking steps towards separation, but she also understood the risks. Quietly, she gathered important documents and looked into her finances, knowing Michael kept a firm grip on the household money. Their teenage daughters had confided in classmates, describing an uneasy home life where their father's mood could shift without warning. That evening, the family moved through their usual nighttime routine, finishing chores, exchanging texts with friends. One daughter considered staying over at a friend's house again, but ultimately decided to sleep in her own bed. Gail settled into her guest room. Tasha went to bed early, ignoring one last message from her husband. Around 3:30 a.m., as the house lay silent, Michael made his final, irreversible decision. By morning, the entire family was gone. Each victim was found in different areas of the home, evidence pointing to a meticulously planned act before turning the gun on himself. Some neighbors recalled hearing odd noises in the night but brushed them off, perhaps fireworks or a passing car. No one could have imagined the horror that had unfolded just beyond those walls. The idea that this father had planned or carried out such a violent act was unfathomable. With each passing day, more layers of the story emerged. Details about the controlling nature of the marriage, allegations of past physical abuse, and a chilling online search history. It became evident that Michael had been concerned about how loud a gunshot would be in the home. He had spent hours reading articles about murder cases, apparently preparing for the unthinkable. In the immediate aftermath, friends and relatives of Tasha and Gail expressed their grief, urging the public not to politicize the tragedy, but rather to use it as a sobering reminder of the warning signs of domestic violence. The mother, grandmother, and 5 children were honored in a single funeral service, with Michael pointedly excluded from the proceedings. He was buried separately, and his name went unmentioned by Tasha's side of the family. An obituary that briefly praised him as a loving father ignited fierce criticism. Within days, it was taken down. Investigators combed through the house, collecting evidence that supported the official determination. Tasha's friends came forward with stories of how she'd been seeking legal advice, detailing her fear about having no control over household finances and having to ask permission before buying groceries. No thorough public inquiry has been undertaken to evaluate how law enforcement and child welfare agencies handled the red flags or whether they might have responded differently. Some in the community have wondered if more decisive action, perhaps pressing charges back in 2020, could have changed the chain of events.
She was quick-witted. She could make you laugh so easily. She was a rock for me during some hard times for me. What's the only comfort that I'm feeling at this time is knowing that they're at peace and they're together.
Officials maintain they found insufficient evidence to move forward at the time. The father's own writings indicated he blamed everyone else for what he was going through, refusing to see his role in the unraveling of his family. To those who knew Tasha, Gail, and the children, the haunting question remains: how could this have happened in such an unassuming town? And could anything have been done to prevent it? It was an unseasonably warm day in Davie County, North Carolina, when a family of 4 stepped inside the lobby of the local sheriff's office. There were no outward signs of distress, just a mother, father, and their 2 small children, taking tentative steps across the tiled floor. They asked to speak with an officer, though they didn't give any specifics. The mother lingered by the reception counter while the father stood close behind, keeping the children near. On the surface, it looked like a simple inquiry, the kind of everyday requests that officers handle routinely. No one imagined this would be the last time anyone saw them together in public. After a short wait, the family chose to leave without meeting a deputy face-to-face, but before they did, the father took a moment to ask about applying for a concealed carry permit. He sounded polite, if a little subdued. The mother, standing to one side with her children, didn't say much. Deputies on duty recalled that the conversation ended quickly. There were no heated words, no overt signs of panic. Yet the entire visit left some feeling a vague sense that something wasn't quite right. Roughly half an hour later, the mother phoned the sheriff's department again, this time using a non-emergency line.
Heavy communication. Hi, how do you call in to speak with a deputy or anything? You need to speak with a deputy? Yes, please. Okay, and what is your name? I just need a little bit of information. What's your name? Ashton Brown. Ashton Brown. And what do you need to speak with an officer about? I'm just needing to speak with them, about a safety reason. Okay, from what address? What did you say? What address is it occurring at? They're still going to call you, but we have to know that to be able to dispatch the correct officer. Oh, you're going to dispatch him? No, he can call you. I just need to know where the... Okay. What do you need to speak with him about? Tell me exactly what's going on there. Well, I'm calling for my fiance, so we're both trying to speak with them. That's okay. What's it about? What, if I need to give him a reference. Can I speak with your fiance? Or I just need a small reference to give them because they're going to ask what it's in reference to. Ms. Brown? Yes, it's really just safety precautions. I'll just reference safety precautions? Yes. Okay. We'll go ahead and get an officer to give you a call, okay? Thank you. Bye.
In the end, the operator took down their information and passed it along to a deputy, who planned to call them back. Soon after this brief call, the father received a series of return calls from law enforcement. Dispatch records show there were 4 short phone conversations within about 20 minutes. In each one, the deputy tried to figure out exactly what the couple needed. Yet the father never revealed what, specifically, they feared or why they had come in earlier. He refused suggestions to return to the office and never shared any direct explanation. According to investigators, those calls ended without a clear resolution, leaving everyone wondering if the family would come back in person or simply handle their concerns some other way. By early afternoon, neighbors saw the father and mother in the front yard, engaged in what looked like a tense argument. The father's gestures were sharp, and the mother seemed to be trying to placate him, though she cradled her youngest child as she spoke. Within minutes, they disappeared back inside. The next thing witnesses remember is the arrival of emergency vehicles and the sight of thick, dark smoke billowing out of the home. According to law enforcement, the scene was grim when they arrived. Flames had begun to spread through the structure, and there was an acrid smell of smoke permeating the air. The fire department managed to gain entry, and that was when the responders discovered the bodies of all 4 family members. Investigators later determined the father had shot and killed his fiancée and their 2 children, then set the house on fire before taking his own life. Deputies found a firearm in his hand, leaving little question about the sequence of events. In a place like Davie County, tragedies on this scale are uncommon. At first, authorities avoided labeling it, calling the circumstances merely suspicious. But as more details came to light, the facts could not be interpreted any other way. The father, 26 years old, had ended the lives of his fiancée, also 26, and their 2 children, a 4-year-old daughter and an 8-month-old son. There had been no previous domestic violence calls to their address, and no deputy had ever been dispatched to the home in the 2 years that the couple had lived there. The public shock only deepened when it emerged that, just hours before the tragedy, both parents had tried, albeit indirectly, to reach out for help. The mother's phone call with the sheriff's department had lasted only a couple of minutes. The father, on the other hand, actually spoke with an officer in those 4 brief calls and still said almost nothing about their worries. Investigators have been left with the agonizing question of what might have happened if either adult had explained more. If they had voiced their fears plainly or accepted the deputy's offer to return in person. The sheriff later held a press conference, noting that his department had no reason to believe anything was amiss when the family came in.
They all entered the sheriff's office lobby at 12:11 p.m. They walked in, no calls were made. They spoke with our receptionist. They were very vague about what they wanted. They just wanted to talk to an officer. The receptionist tried to get information from them.
There had been no overt mention of threats, no allegations of harm, and no hint of ongoing conflict. Even after the father inquired about the concealed carry permit, he hadn't expressed immediate urgency or made any alarming statements. The entire encounter was ordinary enough that the staff at the front desk believed it to be little more than a routine paperwork inquiry, something they see every day. Residents who knew the couple described them as quiet and fairly private. They moved in around 2 years before with minimal fuss, and nobody recalls any arguments or loud disturbances. A few neighbors occasionally saw the mother walking with children in the yard, but the family mostly kept to themselves. People in the area now question whether subtle signs were missed, or if the couple had been dealing with a hidden crisis. That level of second-guessing often follows in the wake of tragedies like this, especially when a call to law enforcement for safety precautions is involved. Investigators confirm they are still piecing together the timeline of events from the moment the family left the sheriff's office to the final call the father received. They've examined surveillance footage from the lobby and analyzed phone records to understand exactly how those 4 return calls played out. While they know the father refused to come back in, they don't know what kept him from opening up to the deputy on the line. The contents of those calls remain part of the official record, and no obvious motive has been confirmed. The sheriff emphasized there was no sign of a history of domestic violence, at least not through documented reports, and friends or relatives had not come forward to mention any prior trouble. Authorities say there is little more to investigate from a legal standpoint, given that the shooter took his own life. Still, they hope to find insights into what truly happened during those phone calls and that short visit to the lobby. To date, no official motive has been made public. The family's relatives have not spoken extensively about the matter, preferring to mourn in private. For the sheriff's department, the case stands as one of the most devastating in recent memory. In the weeks following the tragedy, investigators worked to piece together the family's final hours, but many questions remain unanswered. One of the most puzzling moments was the family's brief visit to the sheriff's office. The father inquired about a concealed carry permit, yet never explained why he was interested or whether he already owned a firearm. Detectives have not determined if this was a last-minute attempt to gather information or simply a way to mask deeper concerns. Then there were the phone calls. Law enforcement reached out to the father 4 times after the mother's initial request for help, but it remains unclear how much he was willing to say. Records show that while he answered each time, he never provided a direct reason for their visit earlier that day. At no point did he agree to return in person, leaving authorities with no way of knowing how urgent the situation truly was. As investigators searched for a motive, they found no documented history of domestic violence, yet the heated argument in the front yard just hours before the tragedy suggested rising tension. Whether the family was dealing with financial hardship, mental health struggles, or something else entirely remains uncertain. The final unanswered question is the fire itself. The father set the house ablaze before turning the gun on himself, but authorities have not disclosed whether an accelerant was used or if the fire was meant to destroy evidence. With no surviving witnesses, the full story may never be known. For more True 911 calls, watch this episode next.